Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing something a little different. Today I'm going to be painting this Bonnie guitar that I'm working on. I am seeing FNAF 2 again this weekend, so I wanted to make some props and kind of go all out. I've made a puppet mask and a little mangle puppet for my friends, and I'm going as Toy Bonnie this time, so I thought I would make a cardboard guitar. Now, the reason why it looks a little crazy is because I covered it in paper mache to give it more strength and durability. So yeah, it made it a little bit lumpy, but that's okay. And while I'm painting the guitar, I'm going to be talking about my predictions for FNAF 3 and 4, because I have a lot of them. So let's start. So of course, spoilers for FNAF 2. And, well, first off, right off the bat, the reveal of Springtrap and him at the end acting like Sans with his glowing eye. Now, of course, that just means FNAF 3 is going to adapt, well, FNAF 3, and the animatronics there. Now, I think that they're going to also combine another one of the games. Now, which game that may be, I feel like is FNAF 4. And I say that because even though Blumhouse is notorious for milking their franchises, like Insidious, and the Purge movies, I'm gonna go and kind of predict that the most they do is 4 movies before, I guess, it starts becoming stale, or they might stop depending on how well it does financially. Now, I think they're all going to do well financially. You can't really not beat the juggernaut that is Five Nights at Freddy's. So I think that they're going to, like, realistically, I think that they're going to keep milking this franchise until it stops making money. But if they were only to do 4 movies, which I know for sure they're going to do 4, I'm kind of following like the Sonic roadmap, where they right now only have 4 greenlit. Now, FNAF 4 isn't greenlit. So far, we only know like Matthew Lillard has a 3-picture deal, so for sure he's going to be in 3. For FNAF 3, I feel like they're going to adapt parts of 4, because I personally feel like, even though I'd want to see this, I personally feel like FNAF 4 isn't kind of strong enough story-wise to be its own movie. I don't really know how it would fit. You know, you follow the Crying Child. We haven't really been introduced to anyone similar to the Crying Child in the films. So I feel like they would incorporate that or adapt that with a flashback with Michael Afton, and he would be the Crying Child, or incorporate that they had a younger brother, or even with Garrett, like Garrett could be experiencing night terrors and hallucinations, because that's what they are in FNAF 4, they're hallucinations. So for sure FNAF 4 would be like a flashback, kind of like how the beginning of FNAF 2 was, and just kind of add more backstory to William, and then just like Fazbear as a whole. I don't think they're gonna have it be its own movie. That's just my opinion. I feel like they'd incorporate FNAF 3, because I feel like also FNAF 3, the game, there's only the Phantoms and then Springtrap, so it would kind of add more weight on Springtrap to see like he literally is like torturing his son and like, you know, creating these night terrors. I also feel like we'd still get sprinkles of sister location in FNAF 3, but still not fully adapt it in 3. And I'll come back to this in a moment, but I feel like they're gonna adapt FNAF 6 in FNAF 3, Pizza Sim. And I say that because at the end of FNAF 2, so they set up Henry with like the whole tape recorder in the style of FNAF 6. So they're definitely getting ready for him to have his big, awesome speech. And I feel like it would just like kind of cap the trilogy, you know, like the trilogy like when movies have trilogies, I feel like they kind of like to stay on their own and kind of have like a big send off. You know, like in Sonic 3, you had Robotnik's big send off, and I feel like with FNAF 3 we need like that big send off, and that send off is for William. Since at least, like I said, Matthew Lillard only has a 3-picture deal so far. That could obviously get extended, but for now it's just 3 movies. So it will definitely end, I feel like it'll definitely end with Skeet Ulrich, Henry Emily, doing his big FNAF 6 speech while William is like dying. Now I know Circus Baby and Funtime Freddy or Molten Freddy is in that scene too. I don't know if they'd be in there, especially if we haven't had Sister Location yet. They might, and then they kind of explain it in FNAF 5, like why are they there? But for sure they'd have Lefty, because that's how I assume the puppet's going to be captured. Like out of Elizabeth's body, Henry will have Lefty and capture her that way and kind of give her send-off. But for the end of FNAF 3, I feel like it'll have that speech and that FNAF 6 ending. So I'm not gonna like predict the whole story or the whole movie, but I think the elements it might have or pull from is from FNAF 4, FNAF 3, and FNAF 6. I don't think they're gonna have the whole simulator, the whole pizza simulator. That would be just a bit too much, especially clashing with the whole Fazbear Frights establishment. But they'll probably incorporate, like, they'll probably combine the fire of Fazbear Frights with the fire in FNAF 6. And then the end credits scene will be, I Hope You Die in a Fire by Living Tombstone. Because that would be sick. Now for FNAF 4, I feel like it's gonna adapt for sure Sister Location, because Sister Location is kind of separated enough from the main FNAF series to kind of be its own thing. So I feel like by it having its own movie, that would make the most sense, so they can kind of focus on Baby and her story. Now, who do I think is gonna be Baby, since there wasn't like a younger sister? I feel like it's not gonna be Abby, but it could be Abby if they really want to get dark with it, because, you know, they make so much effort and they put so much effort into keeping her alive every movie. I feel like having her be Circus Baby kind of defeats the point, but I mean, hey, that's what like all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies do. They like kill off the protagonist from the last movie. So I mean, they could do that, but I don't think it's likely. I'm not sure if they'll introduce someone else, or Baby, they had like a secret younger sister and Baby's already killed her. That's why her eyes are green in FNAF 2. But I feel like we're not going to follow Josh Hutcherson's character in the 4th movie. I feel like he's kind of done with his story. Maybe he'll come as a cameo, but his story I feel like would wrap in FNAF 3, and him and Abby kind of move away from the whole Freddy Fazbear debacle. And I feel like the protagonist for FNAF 4 would be Michael Afton. I say that because that's who you play as in Sister Location, so that would also make the most sense. And then you can have a new protagonist for the new trilogy. So you can have FNAF 3, he sees like his father is like awful, and he doesn't want to follow the footsteps, but rather right his father's wrongs. And he goes to Sister Location to do so. Now I know that movie ends with William still being alive. That game ends with William still being alive. But you know, the movie universe is already far detached from the games. It doesn't have to follow it to a T. So they could definitely take their own narrative route and just have Sister Location take place after FNAF 6, or like, yeah, after like FNAF 6, and he can explore that. I don't know if they would adapt the Steel Wool era. I feel like a lot of people want Security Breach at least, and you know, they've already introduced Vanessa, so I feel like the most that they have would at least be Vanny. Maybe in FNAF 3, when the puppet takes over, the puppet puts on like a disguise, so they're not as obvious, like taking over Vanessa, and that's their disguise. Their disguise is Vanny. So it like hides the puppet's features. Most is Security Breach and the most is like Vanny, but that's just a lot. I don't know how they'd execute it or how that would fit into the story narratively. Like I said, especially because they already introduced Vanessa. So I really, maybe they'll have like references and nods to it, but like the glam rocks, other than that, I don't think that they're gonna fully adapt Security Breach. Another thing too is I hope that the movies explain what happens to their mom, like the Afton's mom, Mrs. Afton, because you see, like, kind of see pictures of her in the flashback scene, in the nightmare scene. So she was there, you know, she was present. You just don't really see her face, or you barely see her face. She's kind of like hidden, but she was there. And I really hope we see what happens to her. I know a lot of people like theorize that she's Ballora, and we see a little Ballora reference in the little music box toy that Henry has, or that Henry gave Mike. So I hope we get like more backstory when it comes to the sister location animatronics. I really hope FNAF 4 is sister location. I think that would just make the most sense, because then they could start the new trilogy and have Michael Afton be the protagonist and keep the story fresh. And I just also feel like sister location is a good stopping point, especially if, you know, FNAF 3 incorporates FNAF 6. So that's like the end of the trilogy, and then sister location is kind of like a cherry on top and kind of just adds more to the lore. And like I said, if that does so well, then they have the option to continue to keep going. And well, I guess next would be like Security Breach then, but hey, I could be my words. We could literally have all the FNAF movies as their own movie, but I just feel like if they literally only have one movie with Matthew Lillard left, then they have to have the FNAF 6 speech, and then you can have him with more lore for FNAF 4. Yeah, I just don't know who the crying child would be, like, if they're going that route, and like how faithfully are they going to adapt it? Like, I guess, or who would even be like the placeholder? I feel like that would be Michael Afton, and then who would be the bully? You know, Mike's the bully. But yeah, I just feel like, but I also don't feel like they're going to adapt every single FNAF 4 animatronic. Like, obviously there's the Halloween DLC. I don't think they're going to adapt all of those guys. They'll probably just do the main 4 and probably Fredbear, and then have like a cameo of Nightmare. I wonder why Golden Freddy wasn't in the movie, like as just like a cameo. Withered Golden Freddy, I should say. Like, they never really explain. I know, I guess he's more of an Easter egg in the games, but they never really like, we haven't, I guess that'll be FNAF 3, right? They introduce like Fredbear, talk about Fredbear and Henry's role, because he did say there were more animatronics in that tape recording, so he could be referring to either Sister Location or Lefty. I mean, because the phantoms and the nightmares are hallucinations, so I don't think he'd be referring to them. Not Springtrap, because he doesn't know that Springtrap is alive. So he could be referring to, when it comes to more animatronics, is the Pizza Sim, Sister Location, depending on his involvement on it, because I know Sister Location was more of William's thing, but maybe Henry had an involvement in it in the movie verse. So FNAF 3 could have elements of Sister Location in it. I don't know. I feel like that might get a bit too crowded, because just Sister Location was just was so grand. I feel like it just deserves its own movie. And then FNAF 4 and FNAF 3 are combined, because initially, like, FNAF 3 was going to be the end, but then he's like, nope, I was unsatisfied, here's FNAF 4. So that makes, because he wanted then FNAF 4 to be the ending. So by having the two quote-unquote endings in the same game, and then the actual ending, FNAF 6, of the Scott Games era, then that would, to me, make the most sense to have it that way. So yeah, here's the finished guitar. Looks pretty good, despite all the problems I faced while making it. I think the paint job really, really helps. I kind of messed up on this string, but just don't look at it. So yeah. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!